Alright guys, we've got a video submitted by friend of the channel, RaysGuide. It was about 2 weeks ago. I'm so sorry I was not able to react to that since I was in Brittany for my grandmother's funerals, but we are going to check it out in today's reaction. So it's RaysGuide here who tells us about Alpha 4.0 and making our homes in Alpha 4.0. Looking forward to hearing what he has to say. He always has very interesting opinions.
RaysGuide. Recently I did a video about the substantial evolution that Pyro has gone through since we were first given details about it, during which I said it was going to have to revisit a set of videos from nearly 2 years ago where I talked about the Pyro player, the Pyro org, the Pyro fleet, etc.
Oh, and especially, if we consider Pyro, even when it was described back then in the lore, it was supposed to be this barren wasteland because of the sun, right? That has those crazy flares, and everything is just burnt. It's a very different direction that we have been to. The Pyro seems to be full of life. It seems to be like the new frontier where people are eager to go, where it's supposed to be a living hell in the Star Citizen universe. At least that's what it was supposed to be before, right?
And while developing this script, I learned that even the definition of what a Pyro player has changed. 2 years ago, I described the Pyro player as someone who would make the trip to Pyro along with everybody else at the start of 4.0 and rarely, if ever, go back. But with so many more stations and support being added to Pyro, there was another possibility.
That players just stay in Pyro and, yeah, definitely never go back. Or maybe they trade between the standard system and the Pyro system. I suppose we'll see.
So at a Bar Citizen last week, I saw a CIG dev who was immediately recognizable from their multiple appearances on ISC and SCL. So I asked them this: will it be possible for players, experienced or new, to choose a location in Pyro as their home city at the start?
I mean, it should, right? Because when you start the game, at the very time when you select the system, it says Stanton, but it should be Pyro in the future, I suppose, right?
And the answer was yes.
Of course, of course.
He further clarified that he was unaware of any actual decision regarding starting locations in 4.0, nor was he aware of any specific discussions going on about it. But yes, the capability of having your home city in Pyro was there.
Nice. And it's definitely something that I will be trying in the PTU. Will I select that in the PU when it comes out? I'm not so sure. I will have to make my decision in the PTU, try it out in the PTU, which we haven't done so far yet. But I do plan to spend a lot of time in Pyro because, PvP, because wilderness, because consequences are fun. Your actions will have consequences, and I think it's fun. It gives, a thrill, and that's what I'm looking for in this type of game and in this type of environment.
Took this to mean that in the internal builds of 4.0 that they were using, the drop down for planets indeed had both Stanton and Pyro, and that selecting Pyro would give a selection of locations to start your home city in Pyro.
That's probably going to be one of those stations right there, right?
But in order for that, it means that the major locations in Pyro are capable of handling all of the things that we associate with a home city in Stanton, such as fully persistent personal hangars and the ability to heal Tier 1 injuries.
That's probably going to be at the stations. I don't think there's any location right now in the Pyro system that has something. Maybe a couple of villages will be given that, but still being able to heal a Tier 1 injury, you need some serious facilities here that the Pyro planets don't have. So it's got to be the stations. It's going to have like rune stations, for example, or some like maybe checkmate station or some of the stations from the rough and ready perhaps, but I don't think this is going to be happening on planet side.
So the new, simpler definition of a Pyro player is someone who has selected Pyro for their home city. So, item 1, is this a good idea? And item 2, the original question of who should consider being a Pyro player rather than just an occasional visitor, and why. As to whether this is a good idea, my opinion is actually it is both a fantastic idea and a terrible idea. Let's start with the fantastic idea. If you accept that Pyro is now something of a mirror universe of Stanton, but dangerous and grunge,
yes,
it makes sense for experienced players who want this as their main game experience to be able to have it right away.
And that's going to be a lot of fun.
It prevents a complete traffic jam at the jump point at the start of the game, and gives an immediate division of server load between Stanton and Pyro.
Now, I have not thought of that, but from a technical point of view, that's also a very good idea. Yeah, you get, a division, players in the Pyro system, players in Stanton, right from the get-go.
Rather than having it develop as players migrate. But, and you knew there would be a but, there is a different group of players. When the announcement is made that they are now live, a doubling of the playable area and new game capability, a lot of new players will be arriving. These can be divided between new noobs who have just gotten their starter package.
New noobs who are just excited about Star Citizen and join, and they will be so lost and easy prey for the old players. These guys, if you're a new player, you don't know anything about Star Citizen, don't go to Pyro. Don't go there. Don't go alone, at least.
And old noobs who have been taking an extended sabbatical from the game and know nothing about things like master modes, new key bindings, new frame mechanics, new UI elements, etc.
And that's why I'm so glad I've been following up on Star Citizen, playing Star Citizen still regularly, although not as much as before because I'm busy playing other games. But still, I log in every now and then. I haven't forgotten all the key binds. I still try to get updated because it's a game that continuously changes all the time.
And in some respects, the old noobs are a bigger issue because new noobs know that they are noobs, but old noobs think that they are not. And of course, they're going to be drawn to Pyro because it was the headline story that brought them in. But putting brand new players with their starter ships in an environment like Pyro is like putting a bunch of baby seals on a beach surrounded by baby seal clubbers. And whatever you think of that kind of game situation, you can agree that it ain't fun for the baby seals.
No, it's not. But it's going to be fun for us.
And it is in everybody's best interest that the new players stick around and become continuing customers.
That's true.
Being relentlessly clubbed like a baby seal isn't it.
Well, that's why there is the Stanton system. And that's why they can go to system. But I don't think it's going to be Pyro, right? We've been teased recently of the Nix system. They could go to Nix as well. Nix is going to be more laid back. There's going to be, less things to do, but it's not going to be Stanton. It's still going to be something new for those old noobs. And these old noobs, they still remember, maybe they were there when Levski was around, right, in the Nix system.
But if you make substantial areas of Pyro safe enough for these metaphorical baby seals, well, then it really isn't the Pyro that we've been expecting for so long. Now, you could say that just put up a big warning about picking Pyro as a planet, except that new players have no experience basis to go by in evaluating that warning. And to make matters worse, if you regret the choice of your starting city, there's no practical way to change it.
Well, yeah, there is. You just go to Stanton, right? You ask for someone to take you to Stanton, and you go to a station in Stanton. There's always a way, right? Especially if you're a starting player, you don't have a lot of stuff in your inventory anyway, so it's not that much of a big deal.
Ever. So this is a subject worthy of debate and input by the player base. But my point of view is that there has to be a minimum experience level in order to have that list of starting planets include Pyro. My gut feel is that an appropriate level would be 20 hours of playtime in 2.23 or later. Now, none of this would prevent any new player from starting in Stanton and then immediately flying to the jump point, as the trip to the jump point itself would be something of a shakedown cruise. Also, in this case, if the visit to Pyro turns out to be ill-advised, then it is not a permanent mistake as if they put their home city there. So, on to item 2. Presuming that you meet any prerequisites to be able to pick Pyro as your home city, should you? And I'm going to start with the main thought about picking a home city in Stanton. Where are your friends? Because if you think it takes a long time to bring together a group now, consider how much longer it's going to be to bring a group together, including traversing 2-star systems and a jump tunnel.
Oh, yeah. I know my friends will be in the Pyro system. That's a good point. I know I was thinking about having my home city in Stanton and go to Pyro, but I know my buddies in the Ride Club, they will be in Pyro. Right? Diplo, he will be in Pyro. Shadow Rise will definitely be in Pyro as well. Yeah. That's a very good point here. If your friends are in Pyro, just set your point in Pyro as well, because you're going to be playing there with your friends. Yeah.
Beyond that, though, there are a number of things.
Zio
First
will
of all,
be
you
in
have
Pyro,
to
I'm
care
sure.
about local power groups, something which in Stanton was background at best. In Pyro, over time, we have seen a number of various gangs in lore, but the latest information from CIG is that there are essentially 4 that will be there on the first release. The first are the good old troublemakers of Xenothreat, who everybody apparently hates.
And they hate everyone too.
It serves a good purpose to have a universal villain group in a game. No mention has been made of being able to join Xenothreat. Then there is Rough and Ready, who run the resupply bases, which apparently everybody needs, so everybody tolerates. It would also seem plausible that Rough and Ready will be a main source of delivery and hauling contracts. I am suspecting that the places that we will be allowed to make our home city in Pyro will be the ones run by Rough and Ready, since losing access to your home city because your rep has changed would be a problem.
These guys, they're going to have a good rep or decent rep with everyone, right? That makes sense.
That means you can't get on Rough and Ready's bad side, but I wouldn't recommend it, as it could mean being hostile in your home city.
Which would not make any sense, because, you know, in some of these places, in those stations, there's no armistice zones, so you'll get shot, you know, if you get out of the armistice zones. And these armistice zones in those stations, they're going to be very tiny.
And then you have two sides that you're expected to have to choose between, since positive reputation in the one directly results in negative with the other. These two groups are Citizens for Pyro.
Yeah, these are my guys. I'll be joining these guys. Yep.
And Headhunters. Judging from their names, it would seem like CFP are folks who want to be focused on what is best for all of Pyro and advancing it, and the Headhunters are for what is best for them. As to all those other gangs we saw teased, I suspect that they will still happen someday, but CIG wants to work out the system with just these 4 gangs before expanding the relationship matrix.
And that's a good first start, right? I think it's still going to keep us quite busy.
But it does mean this: if you want to play together with your org or group of friends, you will likely want to jointly discuss whether CFP or the Headhunters are the side you will choose, because you won't be able to do both. It will be twice as hard putting together a team if half of your players are ineligible.
I know. I'll convince the crew to take also Citizens for Pyro, because, you know, they got those nice little outposts. It's just very quaint going to those little villages run by these guys, right? It just feels like the right thing to do. You know, I've always tried to do the right thing. Sometimes I was a little bit naughty in Star Citizen, I know, right? But that's my play style. I always try to be, you know, legit. I like to play the good guy, although not always. I know, but still, it's the kind of gameplay, the kind of play style that I feel is satisfactory for me, and that's why I will naturally gravitate towards Citizen for Pyro.
Now, we know that getting a certain reputation with one of these factions will result in opportunities and access being made available to you. But there are 2 other big questions that CIG hasn't answered yet. The first is that if I get a high enough reputation with, say, the Headhunters, will someone else lose Headhunter reputation by attacking me? That may put a damper on some of those expecting Pyro to be completely wide open PvP. Another big question is, if I get enough negative reputation with the Headhunters, is there anything that they will do? What is their equivalent of Klesher Prison?
I think there's none. We haven't seen any, right? I don't think there is.
My best guess, considering everything else, will be a system of kidnapping and holding for ransom.
Ooh.
And instead of breakouts like Klesher, you have your friends be able to raid and jailbreak you. Which brings up 2 metas for Pyro. Expect more need for cooperation to survive.
Nah, can you imagine you're being kidnapped by gangs, by NPC? That would be cool. Yeah, and that's what, you know, they have those asteroid bases and stations in Pyro, right? Your friends come and rescue you, or you just stay there for a couple of hours, like in Klesher.
And more chaos in general. Someone who makes Pyro their home city can expect to have to plan your logistics more carefully. Yes, there are now a handful of places where you can get refueled and resupplied at, but Pyro is so much bigger than Stanton. Ships with longer range fuel tanks will be much more flexible. There is also a chance that owning a Starfare will finally be actually useful, but only being in Pyro will confirm that. Expect supplies of weapons, ammunition, etc. to be far more limited in Pyro, but be able to buy rare and unique items that are not generally found in stores in Stanton.
That's why trading items is going to be very important. I'm pretty sure there are going to be weapons dealers out there in Pyro who will just get items in the standard system and bring them in Pyro. I will do that too with the Red Club.
Like kit-bashed weapons and stolen, regulated, and prohibited items. Just expect life to be on the edge. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of the things taken for granted in Stanton are among the most uniquely valuable things in trade. So, for example, in a world surviving on rats on a stick and duck grubs, a bottle of Cruise Lux might be a delicacy.
Nice. Yeah, that's right. Might be much more expensive than, right? Can you imagine a whole box of Cruise Lux?
Pyro, in short, is a system for those who subscribe to this.
Waiting. Space is disease and danger wrapped in darkness and silence.
And now for an update on our ship giveaways.
All right. Well, that was a really good video from RaysGuide. Thank you so much, RaysGuide, for suggesting this video in ERAD react to this on Discord. I'm glad I did. I'm sorry for the delay, but yeah, it was worth watching even though that was 2 weeks after. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. You want to see more content? You want to see me react to more content? Hit the like button, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.